Welcome back to the shed in the garden at the house that sat down. This week I'm in the mood to get messy. So I hope you've got plenty of paper to pop down if you're going to try this one, because we're going to be doing a bright, colourful abstract painting. This particular style of painting is really quite expensive with regard to the amount of paint it uses. However, you could do this technique with poster paints rather than acrylics, and it would work just as well. I'm just using the acrylics because I don't have access to poster paints at the moment. But you can see that I'm squeezing an awful lot of white paint onto the canvas, and I'm using a long thin palette knife to spread it around. If you have anything else that's similar to a palette knife, you could use that instead. But what we want is a nice thick coverage of paint. I'm going to be squeezing a bit more white on there because I still haven't got enough. Okay, pushing it right to the edges. It's very like putting icing on a cake. This is quite a large canvas, certainly bigger than the ones I've been using recently for these videos. But I felt like making a bit of a splash, and it will make an absolute mess. Not really too bothered about the direction of stroke here, just trying to get an even cover over the whole of the top section of the canvas. So now we get to enjoy mixing on the canvas. And it's quite exciting. It's nice to look at the interplay between the two different colours and how they change. And it's just a question of moving it around until you like the effect. Probably a bit too much there, I've moved it down a bit. Okay. I don't particularly want it to look streaky as such, but I am blending it crosswise because this is supposed to be my sky. So that's why I'm moving in a side-to-side direction. It does give quite a nice texture with the paint using a palette knife. I've switched from the long thin one to a short fat one, adding more white and more blue as I see fit, just to make sure we've got enough coverage of paint far enough down the canvas. And when we're doing skies, very often if you have it darker at the top and lighter as you get closer down towards the horizon, it does give the impression of going into the distance, which is really what I'm achieving here by adding extra white at the bottom of the sky here, but not adding any more blue. I am moving on to a darker blue now, more of a cobalt blue for my sea. It is interesting to give some thought to what proportion of the canvas that you are going to use for the sky and then the land or sea area, because it's all part of building up a picture that works for the eye of the viewer. Obviously a horizon right the way across the middle of the canvas will split the canvas in half. It's not always conducive to the best picture though, so I'm going to be coming down about 2/3 of the canvas before I start putting my horizon in. Now this is more of an abstract style anyway, so I don't really want a particularly hard horizon, and I'm not that bothered about it being particularly flat. Approximately flat will do. But again, with abstracts, you're very much putting a suggestion into the painting, and then the eye does most of the hard work for you. Okay, so the next stage is I've decided to switch up the colour scale. We're going to a bright red there. Squeezing a spot just there, just above the horizon. And now we've got some orange. I'm going to do the same with that one next to the red. And in with process yellow. Not being terribly neat about it, but then I don't really have to be. I love this light green. Going in next to the yellow. Oops, not being terribly tidy with that, so don't really want them to mix at that point. I want them distinct, so moving that back across. Now in with a lovely cobalt blue. Again, that one needs nudging back into position as well. Now this is more of an indigo. It's ultramarine really, but it's a very dark blue. And violet. So you can pretty much see where we're going with this. Now, I'm just separating the violet and the blue where they've mixed. Right, now I'm choosing my very long palette brush again now. I'm digging it into the colours and sweeping up and across. That's not gone too badly. My knife isn't quite long enough to get all of the colours at once, which is a shame, so I'm going to have to wipe it off and go back in and do it again. Again, back into the reds, orange, yellows and greens. What I don't want is to mix it though, so I'm trying to make sure that the knife is really clean before I go back in, because I'd like to retain as much of these pure colours as I can as I sweep the rainbow up and across the sky. There we go. Not bad. Wiping it off again. This is when it gets really messy. Okay, now I'm going to move into the more purple area and sweep that across. I'm quite pleased with that actually. Back in and a second sweep. There we go. There we go. Lovely, like that. Clearly some of the white has mixed into the rainbow colours, but that's really quite nice really. It sort of sets them back a little bit from being the pure vibrant colours that they are to start with, although I am going to redo the red because the red has kind of turned pink. So a little bit more red down there, and another clean palette knife, a very clean palette knife, and mainly focusing on the red here rather than the other colours. Just one more additional sweep. Still not happy with it. It hasn't quite gone to the edge of the canvas, so I'm going to try one more time to encourage that across, slowing down towards the edge of the canvas. It's important to clean it off each time because, of course, if you do mix all of the colours of the rainbow together, you usually end up with a muddy brown, which isn't the best of colours, unless that's what you're after. There we go. There we go. My rainbow goes right to the edge of the canvas now. I'm happy with that. Now the next thing is to start thinking about finishing the bottom of the canvas. But you can see I am getting messy. I did say it would be a messy experiment. Okay, now back to the blues and whites of the sea. Re-establishing the position of my horizon to tidy up the bottom of the rainbow. More white and blue. Filling in the rest of the sea. So now I'm going back to my long, thin palette knife. I'm just going to pick a little bit of colour up from my rainbow on it. I'm going to be thinking about running that through the sea. Just going to carefully mark out where I think my rainbow will fall using these traces of the colours, just to give me an idea of where to go with the next bit of the painting. So the rainbow would come towards us in reflections and then across. Now the same for the purples. Not really got enough paint there, so I'm going to look at this a slightly different way. Moving on to a smaller palette knife, I'm going to be putting the purple reflections in as well. There we go, coming towards us and then off. Putting the colour into the blue and white and then just dragging it across. And the important thing here is not to mix, as I said with the rainbow, not to mix too many of the rainbow colours across so that they don't turn brown or just go a grim sort of grey colour. I'm going to be putting each individual colour in one at a time. And back in to do some minor adjustments with the larger palette knife. And actually, do you know what? I'm really quite pleased with that. The danger with this sort of thing is that if you overwork the colours, then they will be slightly more dull. It's an extremely easy technique. It's not terribly sophisticated, but I actually think the result is really very pleasing to the eye. I've certainly enjoyed it. I'm sure that people could criticise it. My horizon's not quite straight, my rainbow's not terribly precise, and I'm sure my reflections are all wrong, but I like it, and I have really enjoyed doing it, and that's why I painted it. If you do have a go, I wish you luck with it, and I really hope you enjoy it, and I look forward to seeing you next time in the shed of the garden of the house that sat down.